Good morning, everybody. I'm Jason Burmis, and this is the Info Warrior, live and exclusive right now on a platform that I think a lot more of you are going to have to come to for free speech, because the party's just beginning. It's just starting, folks. You think I'm kidding? You thought I was kidding? No, 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 no. We'll be following it all day, but we're waiting to find out exactly what evidence is going to be presented, what arguments are going to be made by the Trump administration in this election that the media has already called for Joe Biden. And if you go throughout all of the mainstream news, the big talk is how he's already put together his coronavirus task force. Now, ill-begotten of them to mention the fact that all of these celebrations in the streets, okay, we're not socially distanced. Yeah, listen, that's great. Some of them had masks on some of the time. But it's just like the absurdity that a BLM protest can't be a quote-unquote super spreader event. But any other event with that amount of people absolutely is a super spreader event. And you know what? I hate even saying that word, that term. It is ridiculous. I don't want to talk about social distancing, okay? I don't want to talk about quarantining. And you know what I really don't want to talk about? Mandatory vaccinations. But here we are. And as a lot of you guys know, I wasn't out and out going to vote for Trump until it really came to the realization that this guy, Biden, who, again, Zombie Joe ain't calling the shots. And here's the thing. It's so beyond reality that anybody would think that or promote it, that they really don't. And what do I mean by they don't? When you go to polls, most people that voted for Joe Biden don't even expect him to serve a full term. Okay? So unless you're into like deep Orwellian, doublespeak, mainstream talking points propaganda, it's already known Joe don't run nothing. Joey B's days of mitigating for the predator class are over, other than 15-minute struggle bus speeches where he says things like 230,000 million people have died from this thing. Let's get into a place called reality. Okay, so even they know that. Okay? And again, I went Trump when it wasn't just going to be lockdowns and mandatory masks, but knowing that it will be mandatory vaccinations for everybody in this country. And that alone, in the aftermath of whatever happens. So in other words, first of all, we've got the chaos post-election that's just gearing up, okay? They talk about protests and people being upset and out in the streets on both sides. Buckle up, man. This ain't over. In fact, I expect to go live after Trump finally comes out and says something publicly via a speech or a press conference or a release, because it's all been Twitter and his entire Twitter feed. Just down the line, almost every single tweet is being fact-checked. Now, there's a lot to go over on that regard, but with mandatory vaccinations, I want to point this out. Angela Merkel, not a fan of hers, not that I've really studied Merkel all that much, but the Chancellor of Germany, Merkel has now said that the vaccination will not be mandatory for Germans. Now, I went into Google and I went to search that out because I literally watched it yesterday in my news feed. I was watching, I want to say I was watching CNBC because, the stock market is doing well right now. It's such an odd time to be alive, right? I mean, the stock market basically collapses in the beginning of this. The supply chains were just totally cut off at points, and somehow they made a massive recovery with infused money where, again, they were bailed out Okay. But at the same time, you know, again, the predator class consolidates that power. They get to promote their agenda of a fully digital currency. They get to tell you there's a coin shortage, right? They get to promote a UBI even further. Just so odd. They get to promote a great reset. And if you don't think that Joe Biden and his administration or Kamala Harris and her administration or whatever administration you think they're going to install there isn't going to be pro-Great Reset, you don't know Andrew Capo Cuomo. You must be new here. So, couldn't find Merkel talking about the fact that this won't be a mandatory vaccine. I'm sure there's going to be headlines somewhere later. Maybe we'll do a full video on that. But it also speaks to the, big tech censorship, that's not the information they want you to find. That's not the information they want to be mainstream. They don't want you to watch that video of a WHO official, a WHO official, World Health Organization, UN, a guy that I don't really love, an organization I wish didn't exist, and I don't think that we should be beholden to by any stretch of the imagination, comes out, says lockdowns are not their main policy, and said there's one thing they're good for, and that's making poor people poorer. That is almost a verbatim quote. And that gets fact-checked. That's the new fact-checked. And you won't find that in the top search results. And you won't talk, and they won't talk about how he thinks that global poverty will double next year if this keeps up. And that I think it might be double or more than double. Okay. And then he says that child malnutrition will double or more than double. What planet are we on where that's an authoritative source, yet if I quote that, then I get fact checked. Or if I put that in a video and it gets shared or it gets played, then it will also get fact checked, okay, for context. Everything now has a big tech context flavor. But remember, big tech, they're the arbiters of truth now. They don't fact check the fact checkers. They don't fact check Hearst Publications. They don't fact check the Central Intelligence Agency or USA Today. CIA Today, anybody? I don't know. Oh, Jason, no. I gotta get a button for the no lady. I've always thought about having one of those little pads that's too like corny DJ, but boy, that woman, that one, no. They just look at you and say, no. Oh, so getting back on track here with Joe Biden, the administration, and mandatory vaccines. I want to let everybody know that this is the real deal, that New York is just the setup for these mandatory vaccinations. And it goes beyond just COVID-19 84 vaccinations. They already took away the religious exemptions pre-COVID-19 84. Okay, made it almost impossible for your kids not to get them if they want to be in public school at all or any type of program. Okay, that's number one. Okay, so then you see all the other bills they have outside of COVID-19 84 where we're talking about vaccinating children as young as 9 without their parents' consent. In the bills, we've covered them. In fact, before we get going, I want to let people know that that are new to the channel and that you think that that's a joke. It's here on Rokfin as well, but this is it right here. These documents should terrify any normal thinking human being or person. I don't know what the exact headline is. That's from about 2 months ago. Okay? We show you the multiple bills, 9-year-olds, 14-year-olds, HPV vaccines, and beyond. Again, no parental consent whatsoever. Not even the knowledge of the parent. So if you think this is just about COVID-19 84 and you think Andrew Cuomo is America's governor, think again. But you know what he might be? America's attorney general. They're talking about that. Okay? So we're going to go down the line. We're going to show you how Zero Hedge and Law.com are starting to pick up now on this story we've been covering for months, and that's mandatory COVID-19 84 vaccinations, not only for New York State, but for the entire country. Fully demonetized by YouTube. Platforms like this, Rockfin, which many of you are joining on, we hit 50 live viewers. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for doing that. And remember, we do this live and free. So everybody gets to watch live and free, and I usually leave it up for at least 24 hours. Friday's show is still up for free. We're going to make that premium afterwards. But I'm going to explain Rockfin to those that are just kind of tuning in and getting into this, because some people don't get that they can just sign up for free and then join here, and then why things are behind a paywall. It's because they're monetizing content, okay, outside of the advertising model, right? That supposedly YouTube and Google and the algorithm are beholden to. But they're a censorship-free platform as long as you stay within the very defined rules. You know, their terms of service aren't like YouTube's where it's like, no. But we could still use you on the GoFundMe, $5, $10, $15. Big donors. You do mean the world to me. Shout out to Gritch, who I see in there, and many others that make this possible. All the documentary films, they're free. I give all of them away. If you haven't seen my movies yet either, I think that's really important. Go check out Invisible Empire and New World Order Defined, Shade the Motion Picture, to really see where I'm coming from. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but these are not just like amateur documentaries. I get it. The show might look a little bit amateur at times. I don't look that smart, right? I look like the reject of a 90s reality show that didn't just quite make it. I get it. All right? Watch the films. Okay? That's all I'm going to say. Watch the films. And Rockfin. You know, if you're watching this on a replay, or if I posted this to YouTube, let me explain how this works. As you can see, all this stuff right here behind me is premium, right? But all of it is also available free on YouTube, or even on Twitter most of the time, all that stuff. But what's still free is Friday's program. And just like this one is free, when we go live and exclusive 5 days a week here now, 11 a.m. Eastern, okay? Maybe we do 20 minutes, a half an hour, maybe we do an hour. We're trying to get more guests to come on so we can do up to 2 hours. Costs you nothing to watch that. Plus, if I'm fully taken off of the YouTube platform, this is where I'm going to be. Then I make it premium. Now, if you have a premium account, it's not just Jason Bermas you get every creator. So it's like having a Netflix account, and then you have access to everything. But already, there are so many great creators that put out free content. You want this subscription, okay? So not just a premium. I mean, just make the free account. It's that easy. We're almost at 7,000. So we got 60 people watching right now. We're going to have 60, then 100, then 200, then 1,000. We're dedicating to this platform right here, because they're promoting free speech. And that's something we need to do. And while we're still on YouTube, join the brigade. Let's get to 60K over there and show them we're not going to go without a fight. And free speech needs to have a home. So, New York Bar Association recommends mandatory vaccines with no exemptions. No exemptions. No exemptions. Now, law.com picked this up. This is in the New York Law Journal. And, you know, it's on the 7th. This is right here. But we've been reporting it for some time now. For some time. And this is a new clip, okay? I've already played you Andrew Capo Cuomo telling you that he plans on 330 million people, 330 million people getting vaccinated at least twice, okay? He brags about it. He's talked about it's going to be mandatory, and he brags about it here, and no one's challenging him on it. Now, what's scarier is, yes, there's a big chance that somehow he gets in to this Biden administration and they get into office. I mean, the media is frothing at the mouth to let these guys into office, you know, without any challenges whatsoever. And I'm not calling elections. We'll see what the chaos shiz show. But I can tell you this. A lot of Americans aren't just going to go, here you go, boop, sure, Mr. Cuomo. And what's even scarier is Cuomo was so out and out political about this whole thing that in this clip, he talks about how, you know, it's a good thing now. Remember, like, the Trump vaccine wasn't going to be good enough, but now that Biden is coming in, okay, now the vaccine suddenly, the trials look safe. Now he trusts it. Remember how we talked about that, how the Trump vaccine, he wouldn't recommend it to people. We played those clips. But as soon as now it's another administration, he's recommending it. But then the only problem is that there's a couple months before the Biden administration comes in. So the way that Trump administers it is going to be wrong. In other words, Trump, when he starts administering it, if and when that happens while the chaos is going on, it's not going to be mandatory. Scott Atlas has already said on a couple occasions, it's not going to be mandatory. But I want to show you what the Predator class's promotion of Andrew Capo Cuomo, aka America's governor, really sounds and looks like.
It's a vaccine distribution in the next 2 months. What do you make of this news?
Well, it's good news, bad news, George. The good news is the Pfizer tests look good and we'll have a vaccine shortly. The bad news is that it's about 2 months before Joe Biden takes over.
I mean, the guy is the one, again and again, told you the facts aren't the facts. Told you he's not playing politics. The facts aren't the facts. I'm not playing politics. Talks about meatballs and his daughter. I mean, this is like, there couldn't be anybody who would make George Orwell more proud, okay, and more frightened than Andrew Capo Cuomo, who put a book out during all of this. Who sat up there when he gets questioned about the nursing homes and why he didn't use the Javits Center, or even the boat that came in, right? The ship that came in. And he's like, no. No, I mean, we should morph Cuomo in as soon as the question is, just morph him into that. No. How about that? And it's so bizarre that, that same publication, the New York Post, who I'm no fan of all the time, is the one putting out, for instance, the truth about the Hunter Biden laptop, and also about Andrew Capo Cuomo and what happened in those nursing homes. And it's not just the Capo Cuomo. You see what happened in Pennsylvania and other East Coast states. It's also a travesty. But right here, he just told you again, well, the trials are looking good all of a sudden. They weren't looking good a month ago, right? There were big concerns. He wasn't going to recommend it. Please go watch my videos. Okay, no, Jason, no, you didn't make those videos. No. But now the problem is that Trump's going to be in too long. So here's the call for Trump to give up the reins as soon as possible and just hand the country over to these people.
And that means this administration is going to be implementing a vaccine plan. The vaccine plan is very important, and it's probably the most ambitious undertaking since COVID began. Just to put it in focus, we did 120 million COVID tests in this nation over 7 months, scrambling, doing everything we can. We now have to do 330 million vaccinations, maybe twice.
So does anybody get why I started to push Trump? Because at least he wasn't going mandatory vaccinations twice. This man right here not only said it, but gave my state away to billionaires and smiled while he did it. That's why I moved to Iowa. Smiled while he did it. Hey, you know what? The new brown shirts, the contact tracing forces that are going to be used for much more than COVID. Joe Biden already told you that. Said he was going to hire 100,000 contact tracers out of the gates for things other than COVID. Okay, it's COVID and other health-related illnesses. Played that clip too. That was when he came out. And if you want to see that, I've got that. Do you get it? This is real now. Let it sink in. We have to fight this tooth and nail. Do you get it? And people already started fighting in New York, and it wasn't enough, and that's why I jumped ship. He didn't just give the contact tracing force over to billionaires, a.k.a. Michael Bloomberg. He gave education to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. He said, you know what, Eric Schmidt, you were coming in for these smart cities anyway. Do what you want. Swing that big Google, Alphabet, YouTube, Dragonfly, ding dong all around my state and in my city, baby. Can't wait. Can't wait. Oh, Jeff, Mr. Bezos. Hi, how are you? Come on in. Come on. We've gutted the economy for you. The rent space is going to be great for your new Automation Nation universal basic income ideals. Let's bring it back, because this will be the tipping point, in my opinion. No matter what chaos comes out of the next few days, weeks, and even months via this election right now, because we haven't heard from, Trump. It hasn't gone to the Supreme Court. As I showed you before, just one state, hanging Chad's recount with Al Gore, took until the beginning of December in 2000. This is a totally different feel. This is a totally different feel. And this guy right here is openly telling you, and has been, and they all have been, medical martial law, roll it up, boop. Oh, the trials are promising all of a sudden. Do you see how transparently absurd all of this is? And it's right in your face and they cackle about it. Let's bring it back just again.
COVID began. Just to put it in focus, we did 120 million COVID tests in this nation over 7 months, scrambling, doing everything we can. We now have to do 330 million vaccinations, maybe twice. My state does more testing than any state in the United States. We did 12 million tests. We have to do 20 million vaccines.
20 million people live there. And he really means 40 million because he wants to double down. That's why I got out of that state. I wasn't taking any mandatory vaccination. Ask him how many false positives were in those tests. Ask him and how many of those people that were positive post that first initial wave, again, where most of the sick people came from the nursing homes. All right, no one's saying it's not real. In fact, we took a lot of heat for talking about how real it was. No one's saying it's not easy to spread. We took a lot of heat for saying how easy it was to spread. No one's saying those things, but it's highly treatable. The therapeutics that they don't play up at all in the media have worked for a while. And we've been all over this mandatory vaccination. We're going to play this clip for the bazillionth time to show you that we were talking about this in the beginning of June. And in fact, if you go down to my channel videos right here in the top right here, you see these? This is, I'm just going to play some of this in the background. But, this is yet another protest other than the one you're going to see where the New York State Bar Association not only calls for mandatory vaccines in New York, but across the country and says the Constitution has failed us. Okay, this woman's story was very tough to watch, but I encourage you to check it out anyway. And when I say the media just ignores this, again, we're out by the Capitol in New York. We're in Albany. We're in the Capitol. Notice this is in June. Is this a super spreader event? Was there a huge outbreak? Man, people aren't social distancing. We should all be infected by now. The media, not only did the national media not touch this, okay? Not only did the national media not touch this, unbelievable, but barely anybody in the New York media touched this. Okay? Because that's how we really feel about Andrew Cuomo right there, in that sign behind me. But you don't ever see this on the news. Like what? There we are, 2 people with a mask. And again, not social distancing. It's absurdity that we should be beholden to these people. And right now, and pause that. And those are tough videos to find, but you can watch that whole thing. You can watch how they want more than just the COVID 1984 vaccine. And like I said, we're going to play it for the bazillionth time and illustrate to you how brazen the New York State Bar Association and Andrew Capo Cuomo really are.
Hundreds of people rallying in Albany Saturday morning, sending messages to Governor Cuomo and the New York State Bar Association. They say they are fighting for the freedom to choose and the right to refuse a COVID-19 vaccine once they are made available. Now, many doctors believe vaccines save lives. Others feel differently.
I am very much against forced vaccination.
Hundreds of protesters, including friends and families, rallied outside the executive mansion in Albany.
And without uniting, we are going to be weak.
Waving flags and their homemade signs.
We will not.
Now remember, this is local media, and this is the protest before the one I went to. Okay? Where was the national media on any of this?
Not be a lab rat for anyone, any company, any vaccine company, Governor Cuomo, we refuse.
I'm personally not against all vaccines ever. I just think that there's a lot we don't know about vaccines.
They shared several messages.
I take care of many children and adults who are vaccine injured. My brother was paralyzed from receiving a flu shot. My family has a really bad history of vaccine injuries themselves.
In late May, the health law section of the New York State Bar Association in this 89-page report recommended a mandatory COVID-19 vaccine for all residents unless a doctor
exempts them. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Now, notice, it's not just for New York. We're going to read the whole thing so people can get it. When a vaccine becomes available, there will be a majority of Americans who want the vaccination. Not true, not substantiated. If you asked 10,000 people actually randomly, not with their selective polls that we've already seen shattered in this last electoral bout, no chance. It's the majority of Americans. However, some Americans may push back on the COVID 1984 vaccination for religious, philosophical, or personal reasons. No kidding. Nonetheless, for the sake of public health, mandatory vaccinations for COVID-19 should be required in the United States as soon as it is available. Not New York, the old good US of A. Mandatory vaccinations are supported by the authority of the state police power when the vaccinations are necessary to protect the health of the community. Yes, again, if we go by the authoritative content of the World Health Organization, something that 99.4% of people survive after getting, and probably higher than that. Those are old numbers. Constitutional challenges. Oh, I can't believe it just restarted there. Man, that was the juicy part. I almost want to go back. It says the Constitution failed us. No, it hasn't failed us. You guys have failed us. You know what? We're going to just hit this here, and I want to go right back to that because we got to read that part. It's important. Okay? It's important. Okay? There we go. Oh, of course. That's why we do it live. Thumbs it up, guys. There it is right there. Constitutional challenges under the Religious Freedom Clause, under the First Amendment, and are the substantive due process clause of the 14th Amendment have failed when the individual's interests are not strong enough to outweigh the public benefit. They're just telling you, nope, boop, nope, boop. Andrew Capo Cuomo, your new Attorney General, if that doesn't frighten you, the possibility of that, I don't know what to say, guys. I wish I had better news, but, you know, this is one of the reasons that I got out of that state. Guys, we are up to 69 viewers, and I want to thank everybody who joined me for this live Rockfin exclusive. Again, we're coming here Monday through Friday for free. Make the free account. Explain to people how it works, how there is some premium content, but you do not have to make a premium account. If you do, that hugely supports me. It really does, because again, that they're promoting my stuff. They're sending out emails. They're putting me at the top of the queue. I get it. This platform's in its infancy, but we've been able to take now more than 1/10 of our audience from YouTube and at least bring them over to Rockfin to check it out. That's huge for an alt platform. And they have an actual sustainable business plan so I can do this 5 days a week and maybe more. And you get my YouTube content on top of it. So please consider supporting me, because if you do go premium, you get everybody's content as well. Check out the documentary films. If you can hit the GoFundMe, I love you. The link is down below. I love you anyway. Guys, we're in for a rocky road. We're going to report throughout the day after we find out what these lawsuits are going to entail. Rudy Giuliani did Crowder yesterday. That's giving us a little bit of a preview. But buckle up, because this is far, far, far from over. The chaos has barely started. And once people realize what these mandates and this Biden administration is truly going to mean for something that is so personal to them, their bodies, and in my opinion, their minds and souls on top of it, things could heat up. Guys, I love you. It's not about left or right. It never was. It's especially not anymore. I'll see you on the flip side.